All right. Welcome, everybody. We're going to give everyone just a second here to roll in so we can get started and have the conversation around Protiv and how it's the employee incentive system that you need in your business. So again, for everyone who's just joining, we're going to give it like 30 seconds here, make sure everyone has a chance to join before we get rolling, but we'll start up here in just a second. Sweet. Looks like things are mellowing out a little bit, so we'll go ahead and get rolling here. So super excited to have this conversation today. We got Michael with us here from Protiv to talk to us about Protiv and their employee incentive system that they've built. And yeah, a couple things here, even before we get started, just housekeeping. So we've got a couple things. Actually, let me double check that our chat is working. Okay, sweet. So now everyone, you should be able to chat in questions. And then you can also just drop them in as a Q&A question as well. So either way, feel free to do that. And even like while we're starting this off, working through this, like feel free to, chat in, like love to know where everyone's from. So chat in where you're tuning in from, and we'll get started here and make sure all of our chat and everything's working. So, okay, I think that gets us covered on just how to ask questions, how to get that done. So Michael, 30 years of experience in, construction, real estate, technology now. So Protiv, latest venture, has been working to build an incentive program. And so it's actually funny. I was listening to, I'll do like a plug for a podcast I really like. So Alex Hormozy, podcast is called The Game. For everybody, like if you're a business owner, like you should be listening to this podcast, in my opinion. But he was actually talking about this morning, as I was listening to on my way to work, he was talking about a buddy of his, and I think it's pretty applicable here as well. His buddy started a cleaning company, had lots of sales and marketing experience, was able to generate leads, generate new business. What he realized was that he had a problem with hiring people. Like he couldn't hire people to clean the houses fast enough. So like that, he talked about how that guy was able to incentivize his employees by having paying per house, right?
Yep.
And that's similar to like your per diem, but that's really hard to be compliant. Where I thought it was funny how it tied into our conversation today of like, Protiv is the incentive program that helps your guys get stuff done higher quality, get your stuff done faster, while also staying compliant, paying your guys an hourly wage. They're not, getting paid underneath minimum wage or anything weird. But the other thing that he noted here that I just thought was cool, I wanted to just mention before I turned over to you, Michael, is he said like what his buddy realized is that he wasn't in the cleaning business, he was in the recruiting and retention business. Like that, his business is hiring and keeping talent. And I think that's really similar with construction. Like, yeah, your business might be concrete, painting, framing, but at the end of the day, what you really are is a hiring retention organization. It's how can you hire really good people to do the job? How do you keep them for as long as possible? So they don't go start their own framing company, their own painting company, their own concrete company. So yeah, random plug here at the beginning. Go find the podcast, Alex Hormozy, The Game. But Michael, super excited to have you here, man. Excited to have the conversation.
We've known each other for a while now, and been a fun journey from the very beginning of when we went to our first ever trade show. You guys were like and a kind of one row away from us, and we're trying to figure out where the water cooler is, and you guys have it all figured out already. And so really glad to be here. BusyBusy partnership has been great. Just an amazing team. Love your platform. I think we refer to it on a constant basis. I find myself saying the words busy out loud on a regular basis. We have a lot of customers that are using it. And
Yeah.
I think that, your system was purpose built for this space from people who knew the space. And we had the similar backstories, we run a construction and renovation company, renovation painting, et cetera, in New York City. And we built Protiv for ourselves. And to solve a problem that we had, frankly, similar to your podcast, I needed to pay people based on what they got done, the quality of what they did, the speed at which they got it done. And they just all want to make more, right? Hey, boss, can I get a raise? And we had some experience with the legal ramifications of doing that incorrectly that led us down the road to how can we do a performance-based rate for our workers that is legally compliant? What does it take to do that? It's possible. Nobody had ever built software to manage that before, and so that's what Protiv really came from. So I know that I know the BusyBusy, you guys, know a lot about tracking time accurately and the importance of getting that turned in correctly to, the importance of how painful it can be if you turn in the wrong time for employees.
Yeah, and like that's even I thought that'd be a really interesting question just to kind of hear where people are at in this process. Like if you would, everybody go ahead and chat in. Like, are you doing an incentive program right now? If not, like, is it something you're trying to do? Have you tried it before and it failed? Like where are you at on this process? Because it is like BusyBusy. We're the time tracking, job costing piece of this, which is great. Like you have to have it. It
Yes.
helps payroll, it helps job costing, your accounting, ERP information. Um, but yeah, like this extra piece, because like we'll even talk about it too, or like where are you at on this life cycle of like, are you using paper time cards? Are you using, a software yet? What does that look like? I think it's the same thing here of where are you at? You know your employees want to feel like an owner without being an owner. You know they want to make more. Your A players always want to be tracked. Your A players want ways to win. So it's that question of, okay, how do we do that?
So it's interesting that most of the clients, we get someone on the phone, we start talking to them about what we do. Vast majority, 90%, say some version of the sentence. We've always wanted to do this. We tried to do this. We've been talking about doing this. Everybody's wanted to go down this road of connecting production quality to comp, but it's hard. And a lot of people have got a spreadsheet. They've got, a Google sheet where they're trying to figure out how much should I pay Bob in a bonus based on how well this job did or didn't go. Those systems routinely fail at scale. It's one thing if
Yep.
I just sent Bob to go swap a water heater and they do that task and then I can pay a bonus because he got it done soon. But what if I have more than one person across more than one pay period doing different jobs? Maybe they move in between projects. Now I'm swapping people on jobs, which is all real life stuff. Now who earns what? How much do I pay everybody? And I need to make sure it's compliant, that my OT is calculated correctly, what's called OT
Mhm.
differential calculated correctly, the minimum wage is accounted for. In there's certain states, there's other requirements. There are specific things that have to happen to make that successful. What we learned, and one of our great takeaways as we started to build this platform was, if you want to be successful with an incentive program, it needs three real components, I'll call it three and a half. One is it needs to be simple. It actually has to be simple to the point where the team just understands what it is. The goal of your incentive program is not to pay bonuses. The goal of your incentive program is to change behavior of your crews. You want them to work different. And if you want someone to work different, then they've got to understand what's in it for them. It's got to be easy. If it's just some complicated methodology or that they don't understand why they're going to get paid something different, then they don't change behavior. If they don't change behavior, what's the point? The second is
To
that it
to
needs to be transparent. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was gonna just pause you right there. So we had Josh from Charlotte. Sorry, Charlotte. He messaged in and he said, hey, we're looking to do an incentive program for the first time. currently doing year-end subjective bonuses. I just thought that that perfectly tied into what you just said, right? Where it's just like that's
This is
really
great.
hard to motivate throughout the year and say, hey, do more.
Yeah,
Which like by the way, Josh, like that makes total sense, right? Like
we've
that's
all
something
done
most
that.
companies do.
Yeah,
It's a end of year bonus, but yeah,
all
making it
done that.
something that's real.
If,
And
but here's the simple way to look at it. If I go to my team and say we've got this, end of year bonus, we're going to pay 2% of our net profit, and we're going to split that across the team based on your tenure. But that's cool. Do you think that changes behavior on a random Tuesday in April? Do you think that they're working differently because of that bonus that they're going to get at the end of the year? Your hourly workers don't have that horizon. That's not the way they think. They think about what am I
mhm,
making on Friday? And
mhm,
if I change my behavior on Tuesday, do I make more money on Friday? The connection between those two things is important. And that's where a second part of our system is frequency. The bonuses that they earn need to be frequent enough that they connect in their brain, called behavioral economics. It's a real thing. Their brain for their behavior to what they earn. Their change in I'm going to think different. I'm gonna act different. I'm gonna do something different, be a better teammate, communicate better, whatever. And that's going to earn me more money at this point, the connection, and it's going to be frequent enough. The other part that we found is transparency. If they need to be able to see it, and they actually, I mean, see it, I mean, they need to see the number on their phone and they need to be able to interact with that number so they believe in it. You can tell them they're going to get a bonus all day long and they humbly, I'm not sure they believe you, right? It's, oh, but pay you guys, if you guys finish this job early, I'll pay you some of whatever I save. Okay, I guess maybe I will. But if they can actually do that math on their own and see it right on their phone, where they say, if we finish this job 10 hours ahead of schedule, or we finish this maintenance route, 4 hours early this week, how much goes on my paycheck? When they see those numbers, again, that's where it gets in their head. They start to think. Now, I'll say that I said three and a half things. The other that is really, it should be a fourth thing, is that it needs to be an integrated system. Because really the only way you can do the other three is if I'm getting the data systematically in two places. One is I need the budget that you originally thought you were going to spend, and I need to know what you actually spent. Budget and actual. Simple idea, right? What I need though is I need that I bid this job for Mrs. Smith for 20 hours. And then I need from BusyBusy, I need to know that I actually spent 14. I saved 6 hours. I spent 19. I saved an hour. When I have that, that savings becomes the vehicle through which I can pay incentives. Now, maybe I give all of that to my team. Maybe I give half of that savings to my team. It's up to you. What we did with Protiv is we built an architecture that people can configure their bonus program the way that they kind of want it to operate. We have clients that pay bonuses every week. We have clients that pay 100% of any savings to their teams. We have clients that pay bonuses monthly that split at 50-50. We have blends of all those things. We have clients that roll projects together. They say, we're going to take all the projects you do this month, and based on the net of that number, we're going to pay you however you performed across the month. We have others that pay bonuses on every job that they do well on. So it's flexible to the way that you need your business to operate. And so I think that really allowed us to start to encapsulate the whole scope of what it takes to run an incentive compensation system for contracting, and been really successful. I'll give you some numbers, just as you perspective. We just pulled some of this a couple of days ago. Our average wage increase for employees on our program is about 17%. Means your team is going to make 17% more money than they do right now. And that will not cost you any more than what you have been spending. Your labor costs are actually likely going to come down because they're about 20% more efficient, right about 19.7% more efficient. So most of that savings is passed on to the workers. Some companies split it in different ways, but the ability for them to earn more without raising your labor costs is really powerful. Because think about what you said earlier, it's hard to find people. And I bet most of the people on here listening have struggled at some point to hire, recruit, and retain the best people. Well, what if you had a bonus program in place? One that was easy to understand, transparent, frequent, that they could see dollars showing up on their paycheck regularly. That helps. They make more money per hour working for you than they will somewhere else. That makes them stickier as an employee. We also look at it as a way to empower the workers for some control over their own destiny. We care about our team. We want to help them to do better. How do I do that? If you think about it, what we're trying to do is get them to take some ownership of their financial trajectory of what they can earn, to think like we do as owners. So I often talk about when you hire Bob to come and dig a hole or run conduit or mow a lawn or whatever task you've hired Bob to do, you've paid for Bob back. You've paid for his labor to do that task. Where I'm going to dig a hole, I'm paying you $20 an hour for your back to dig that hole. What's interesting is Bob comes with a free gift. It's a gift with purchase. It's called his brain. Now, if you would like to get Bob to use his brain at work, you actually have to, frankly, you got to make it worth the while to Bob to use his brain. It's kind of like, okay, it comes with him, but how do I get him to use it? Because Bob he has an idea. Well, you might be able to do this faster, but right now it's not his money. And I hate to break it to y'all listening, but Bob doesn't really care about y'all's money. Like they don't really, it's not their money. Your money's not theirs. So what if we can get them to feel like the labor budget is their money? What happens is now they want to use their brain, which you got for free. And so now they think about, how can I do this better? Bob looks over at Jim and says, Jim, you've got to do that work correctly, or I'm going to lose my bonus because we're going to have to come fix it. Make it their money, not your money, and they will treat it differently. They're somewhat accountable to their teammates, and they certainly care about their own money. And if you can get them to think like that, that's a culture, now you'll hear me talk about this a lot, of performance pay that is really powerful. Our software integrated with BusyBusy is super simple to use. I'll show it to you guys in just a minute. Super easy. There's nothing complicated about the software. So we can implement the technical implementation is like 5 minutes. It's tied in. We can pull all your jobs in, start tracking time, up and running. The culture side is the key. Is you want to be ready to launch an incentive program where you are communicating with them about budgets. You have to talk to them about new stuff. You have to think about when you launch time tracking, right? You've got to talk to them about why do we need to clock in and out? Why is this important? In our system, you've got to talk to them about budgets. So they know that this is why this number is our goal. This is how we want to achieve it. You've got to listen to what they say so that they can come back and say, well, I could have got this job done faster if the materials were here on time. All right, we need to know that. So they get them to think and care, you're on the right path. And that's a culture step more than it is a software step. All right. You want to see it? Let me show it to you. Show you what it
That's
looks
right.
like. All right. Let's see. I get this to work right. What do you think, Ryan? Is that working? You see that now?
Yeah, that looks good.
Cool. I'm just going to show a random customer. This is a BusyBusy customers integrated. You can see the BusyBusy link right up here. We're pulling that data in. Looks like they manage some of their work on Monday.com. So this is a job. We call them ProPays. A ProPay is our term for just your budget. It's a job. It's whatever this Green Mabane warranty work for 4118. I don't know much about this, but we just know this is a job that someone bid, looks like 28, put my glasses on, 28 hours and 46 minutes worth of labor. In fact, what they really did is they bid $750. That's the budget that we pulled in, and we probably translated it to this amount, is my guess, number of hours. So now we have a budget here. This job is underway right now. So they've used 14 or so hours on the job. So they've used about 50% of their budget so far. This is a real project running. Now, what's important there is that we've got the time here, a couple of workers, got their wage rates, got how much time they each worked on the job. So it doesn't matter if they make different wage rates, doesn't matter if they work different amounts of time. We're tracking each individual worker and how much time each one of them put into that job. So as they're going along here, the crew in the field can see this on their phone. Our app shows them the budget for labor and how much time they've used so far. And they get to use a little mobile version of, we call it our calculator, to set goals. They might set a goal for themselves and say, let's try and make $100 bonus on this job. We want a $100 bonus for this project. This is how much time we have to finish this job. So it gives us 23.57 hours to do the job in total, which means we have a remaining 9 hours to finish it. Now they know. They're doing this at the beginning of the job. The crew leader's talking about this at the beginning of the project. What do we want our bonus to be? How much do we think we can make on this? What's a reasonable goal for us as a team? They can put in percent complete. Once they start the job, they're 50% of the way through this project from a time standpoint, but maybe they think they're 60% of the way done. If they're 60% of the way through, they're on pace to earn a $55 bonus on that project. So that is the insight that we let the crew see so that they can understand what's in it for them. And when they can understand what's in it for them personally, financially, that's when we really drive behavior change. That is really the secret to Protiv. Making sense?
Hey, Michael, super quick. We have a question from Andy. So
Sure.
what about like Davis Bacon or prevailing wage? Is
Yeah,
that something that could be incorporated?
yeah, we actually do that in our own company. We do our construction companies, we're probably 90% prevailing wage, Davis Bacon work here in New York. And we've been running this for years on it. The numbers are bigger because the wage rates are higher, but I still want them to finish the job ahead of schedule. So because I did bid the job for some amount of money, so if I can still finish that ahead of schedule, then we've got a chance to earn more. And interesting, it has this is a longer conversation, but there's some interesting advantages to your cost of your fringe, depending on how you're paying your fringe. If you pay it as a lump sum just within there, what they get paid, or do you have it as a separate amount that's going into their insurance, et cetera? There's some benefits to reducing the number of hours that they actually spent on the job because you can reduce your fringe costs a little bit. So that's a more complicated conversation, but we do it today. So absolutely.
Awesome.
Yep.
Super, super quick before I let you go all the way in. Josh just
Yep.
shot out a question. So how does this work with larger jobs with multiple layers of employees? So like if
Yeah.
you have a 10,000 hour job, multiple trades.
Yep, we do it all the time. So we have clients, I was
Okay.
showing you a really simple one there. We have clients that do projects that have $100,000 labor budgets for one phase of a big job and can have, 50 people working on it. In those environments, we use cost codes and what we call milestones. This is something we're pulling from Procore or wherever. We'll be pulling in your cost codes. So Buildertrend, those type of platforms. So once you create your cost codes, they come in phases of the jobs. And then what's great is that workers can work on different milestones. Phases, milestones, cost codes are all a bit interchangeable, but you can have multiple cost codes within a milestone. The workers can work on one milestone and it's tracking that worker's performance during that particular part of the job. So if they did really well in phase one, but then let's say the crew got behind in phase two, but maybe that worker didn't work on phase two, but then they come back to phase three. If some of the crew in phase two were behind, they have a negative balance that they carry forward, or a positive balance they carry forward into different phases. So you can pay part of the bonuses along the way based on how they're performing against the different parts of the job. So if they're ahead in one phase by 10%, you say, all right, I'm going to pay you guys 25% of your earned bonus, but I'm going to retain 75% of it in case you get behind in phase two. But it is tracking it at an individual worker level. So it knows kind of who owes the company money based on how they performed at different parts of the project overall. So it's really dialed into that. We built this originally for some big road building companies that, they're working on a project for a year in some cases. and a lot of employees coming on and off, lots of different cost codes that can go into it. So we certainly do that. Everything. It's interesting. We've learned that we don't really care what the trade is. It's because we all have the same basic problem. I have hourly workers and I have a labor budget I need them to beat and the quality standards I need to meet. And so if I'm mowing lawns that take 20 minutes or I'm building a road that takes a year, I'm still solving for the same basic problem. The way that we interface with the data looks a lot different on a different project based on how they approach cost codes, phases, or lots and lots of little small jobs that get rolled together. So good question. All right. Some things we do once you have I'll show you a couple of settings actually real quick. There are different ways to split bonuses. So our basic framework is that bonuses are paid prorated to how many hours each worker puts into the job. So if you work 20 hours and Bob works 10, you've accrued more of that bonus payout than Bob. So all bonuses are prorated to how much time, with the exception if you just set it percentage-wise. Then you can, if you choose to, weight the bonuses based on the wage rate, so that your higher paid team makes a higher amount of the bonus payouts than your lower wage workers. If you want, it's an option. The other thing that we do is the bonus pool. The bonus pool is how our savings split between the company and the workers. Some companies pay 100% to the workers. Some companies pay 50-50. I think our average is probably something along where this company is, about 80-20 to the workers, but it's up to you. It is a setting within our software. You can change it. You can set it different for different jobs. Totally up to you. We also have a lead pay. The lead pay function is a simple way to add a separate bonus for working or non-working crew leads. So, or foremen or supers or whoever you wanted to put in there really. So you could go to a project and say, I'm going to set aside a separate $100 bonus that gets paid to whoever you want on the team. So whichever workers you want to pay, they could be in the field, in the office, wherever. But if this project beats the budget, that amount of money gets paid to those or the multiple individuals. So that's what lead pay does. It's a very simple way to create a reward system that's still tied to the labor budget for people who aren't necessarily on the project. Another example. I'll cancel this. Once you have bonuses to be paid, you run a little bonus report that's run by pay period, and it will show what bonus gets paid to what workers for that pay period. It's a real simple way you don't have to do any other math. The software will calculate exactly what payroll is paid. Brought up earlier the piece, kind of the traditional piece rate model. I'm just going to pay them to clean each house. Regardless of whatever you may think, it is functionally impossible, not technically impossible, functionally impossible to do that legally compliant. They're, not saying you're going to get sued, but the legal industry of suing contractors in class action over inaccurate overtime payments is exploding. If we use our law firm that we use for our work is Littler. They're the world's largest labor law firm. And everybody thinks, well, I'm in Texas, I'll be fine or whatever. Actually, Texas is the #1 state now for labor law lawsuits. It's a gigantic industry, and you are running a risk if you are paying by the unit, even if think you're above, we're paying more than minimum wage. It doesn't matter. The minute that they worked 40 hours in 1 minute, you probably just ran afoul of the rules. And it's not that the state is going to come chase you down. It's that you're going to have a disgruntled employee see an ad and they're going to go to this law firm and they're going to class action. They're going to get every employee you've ever had. And it's not that you just have to pay them back. It's all the penalties associated with it. It is a ugly, painful, nasty, basically it's an industry at this point. I would highly recommend if you are paying by the unit for any given thing, paying you by the lawn, paying you by the house, paying you by the foot, whatever, talk to us. I can pull that process into our software and make you legally compliant tomorrow. So it is a real thing. And I would encourage people to think that through. Not saying you're going to get sued, but you're exposed a little bit legally.
It's the same thing like with BusyBusy from a time tracking standpoint. Like we see it a lot, especially like in California with break compliance, even overtime stuff, injury reporting. Like that's one of the things we do is we capture like, hey, were you injured, yes or no, at the end of every day.
Yeah.
And we see companies come once that's happened all the time, because it's the same thing. It's like this. It's really hard to go back and prove that that employee like didn't have any overtime paying
Yeah.
in piece rate. It's really hard to prove that an employee walked off the job site healthy and then came back and claiming an injury later, unless you're using something like this that can actually like capture it, make sure you're compliant, make sure you're doing what you should. Because yeah, it's one of those things like it probably won't happen, but if it does, it's something that can bankrupt
Well,
you.
it's company ending level stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal. So our settings, we actually do this even in California, which has some really sophisticated overtime and break times and other rules. We actually have this little alert here that comes up, and we show people the Fair Labor Standards Act back, because some people don't care. They still want to not, pay OT differential. Basically, just so everybody understands what the rule is, if someone earns a non-discretionary bonus in any given pay period, which is what most of these bonus programs are, this is considered non-discretionary bonus, even your piece rate model, the minute that they have a non-discretionary bonus, if they work more than 40 hours, you have to set their base wage inclusive of the bonus. And it's usually not very much money. Sometimes it's 50 cents, but it has to be done correctly. And that can throw you a skew of the rules pretty quickly. So we highly encourage people not to turn these things off. Some people do, but that's the thing. Some other things that we do are automations. Our automations in our system, some come through Zapier, some we've got a bunch of different ones. Basically, when you create jobs in this company, I believe is Monday.com, it's automatically creating all your propays. We're also automatically tracking all your time. There's not really an administrative lift to using our system outside of approving the jobs are done. And there's a little approve button when the job is done correctly. So the integrations really make a big difference. Regardless whatever platform you're on, we have many of them at this point. And so wherever you're maintaining your budgets and then wherever you're maintaining your time are the two critical pieces that we pull in systematically. That's one of the reasons we like so much working with BusyBusy is that's a nice seamless tie together. So a lot of settings, cost code control. When do you want your bonus statements? How do you want that grouped? How do you want your bonus pool to operate? I would be surprised if someone has a way that they want to operate a bonus program that we haven't contemplated at this point. Just we've done this for a while now. And so we can likely help you achieve what you're looking to achieve. Yeah,
Really quick, Josh did have a question.
sure.
So can you do a bonus payout if you beat your budget by a certain percentage? So for example, like no bonus is paid unless you save at least 5% of budget,
So
and
the
then
way
the
that,
bonus
yeah,
kicks in
yeah,
after that.
our system is actually, it's a setting in our software where you set your labor budget, you set your propay at 95% of, if you wanted it to be 5%, you got to beat budget by 5%. You set your budget at 95% of whatever your actual budget is, and they only make bonuses at that point. So absolutely account for that. Do that today. So you just decide,
Sweet.
and you can even change it by job. Say, okay, on this job, you guys beat the budget by, at all, you can save or change it to 10 or whatever you want it to be. That's automatic. Yeah, in the automations tab. So this one's got, I won't mess with our automations, but pulls over see this where create labor budget using the labor budget and keep the same. I could go in and change that to set it at 95%. And then basically they have to beat the budget by 5% before bonuses kick in. It's
Awesome.
so interesting because 2 years ago when we first spun out our first version of this, I couldn't have done any of that. And it's been feedback from customers helping us understand the way that they were operating or wanted to operate incentive programs. It's gotten a lot of the features that you see within the platform today. We didn't do that in our own company. We had a way that we saw it, and what we originally built was right for us. It's as we've added companies from all kinds of different industries, we've built a lot more into the tool to help people get this right. What we've learned though, really, Ryan, is that it is a culture thing. The software will handle the vast majority of what someone might think they want to do. Culturally, you got to be ready for what it takes to pull off performance pay. And that is the communicate, a lot of it is the communication with your people about dollars. We got to talk about money, and you talk about money every day at the job site. Crew leaders out there talking about budgets. You're starting to do that. You're starting to win. Yeah, that's
It's
kind of what we
it's
do. Yeah.
it's super similar to us, right? It's you have to be ready to actually make that transition. You have to like even like in like with this, it's like there's different layers to it, right? It's okay if you're on not using a time card system, use a time card system. Once you're using it, are you using it to its fullest extent to what makes sense for you guys? And then to your point, then it's a conversation of, okay, great, we're doing all of these other things right. Now we want to transition to a bonus incentive system for our employees. It's like great, like you can't use Protiv and paper time cards. Like you gotta you,
Yeah.
you gotta walk before you
I
can run.
think I think we might have 2 or 3 companies in
Okay.
total that
Yeah.
use paper and they're
Yeah.
manually entering it. But even then, all they're doing is taking their paper time card, which they generally put into Excel, and they're uploading their Excel
Yeah.
files to this, every day. It's annoying, and so no, digital time, it's almost a default requirement to really use our
Yeah.
system. Good digital time tracking that your team is using consistently in the field that where you're clocking in and out of each job. Some people do
Hmm.
lots of jobs in one day, and you need to, and frankly, there's a lot of good reasons to do this for your own job costing. You need to accurately be tracking time at each location.
Yeah.
And if your team doesn't do that, let's say that, well, my team is the worst at moving between projects over the course of 3 days, and I'm bouncing around and they're not clocking into the wrong thing. And we can account for that. We actually have a way of managing that through what we call groups, where we group all those jobs together, and it's how they do across the whole group of jobs. But the reality for your own success, job costing is critical. Funny thing I've learned about the different um, stages of company growth within construction and landscaping, et cetera. The biggest companies, one of the consistent things you see from them is they're maniacal about job costing, cost control. Like it is that and risk. It is
Yeah.
those things drive. If you see people with 400, 500 employees in the field, the bigger trade contractors, they don't let a penny get away. Right? That's their focus about so much of what they do. So they know if they're making money every day. So I really, I would say make sure you got job costing under control. Get your time right, get your materials right. If you want to incentivize your team, we can help.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Michael. Everybody, I mean, we're wrapping up here. So if you've got a question or anything else that you want to ask here, this is your chance. So feel free to ask it. Otherwise, yeah, I appreciate you being on here, Michael. It's been an awesome conversation. Like Michael said, like feel free to check out Protiv if you are looking to do an incentive program. Let's see here if I can quickly do this. I'll add there's just a link to the Protiv website. So feel
Awesome.
free to go check it out. But yeah,
Protiv,
well,
anybody can email me, michael@protiv.com. Email me directly. I'm happy to help. Ryan@protiv.com is our sales manager. So happy to help anybody who works with So is BusyBusy the only clock software that integrates with Protiv? Well, it's the best one, that's for sure. So,
That's right.
so technically we
That's
have
right.
some integrations to some other platforms. There, some have time tracking features and some are otherwise. I am a fan of BusyBusy and I will always say that out loud when I'm asked. So, but yeah, technically we do have some others that, as poor as those platforms may be, they do push data into our system. So
That's right.
fair enough. Uh,
That's right. Awesome. Okay, I think that, yeah, I think that wraps us up. Michael, appreciate having you here and talking to us, and
so
we'll
happy
send
to,
out a recording to everybody as well. So if there's anyone else you need to share it with, we'll get that recording out here in the next couple days.
all right. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate
Okay,
you.
see ya. Bye.